scientist from HFRI, Shimla, my colleagues from ENVIS Hub, and all the participants of today's webinar. This webinar is organized for celebration of International Day for Biological Diversity, which is celebrated on 22nd May every year with a particular theme to increase understanding and awareness of biodiversity issues. The theme of International Day for Biological Diversity this year is Building a Shared Future for All Life. So now for starting the program, I would like to request Shri Satpal Himanji, Joint Member Secretary, SP Council for Science, Technology and Environment, to please deliver keynote address of today's webinar. Sir.
Thank you, Priyanka ji. I hope I am audible to everyone. Very good morning to all of you. So today we have distinguished speakers with us. Dr. S.P. Bharat ji, who is a former Joint Director, UHF NANI. Dr. Vinny Chistu ji, who is a good friend also, a scientist from HFRI Shimla. And my colleague and a friend, Sri Rajesh Kumar Sharma ji, who is a project director, JICA project in the Forest Department. So on behalf of Himachal Council for Science, Technology and Environment, I extend a very warm welcome to all of you. So I also welcome all the participants who could make it to attend this webinar today and they are connected with us. We are meeting on the eve of International Day for Biological Diversity, which is actually tomorrow on 22nd May 2022. And as Priyanka Madam already told, the theme for the International Day for Biological Diversity is building a shared future for all life. So, the biodiversity is not only about few species, it's about all life forms on this planet Earth. So right from humans to organisms like microbes, fungi, and invertebrates. So today it's an opportunity to increase our understanding about the biodiversity issues. How the organisms, the ecosystems, and ecological processes, they supply us with oxygen, the clean water, they help us cycle carbon and fix nutrients. They enable plants to grow, they keep pests and diseases in check, and they help protect against flooding and to regulate the climate. So from the human's perspective, it is essential, the biodiversity conservation is essential for better health and well-being, economic prosperity, food safety and security. So the biodiversity is declining at much faster rate than ever before in the human history. So the problem is we humans. If I put it in scientific terms, the Homo sapiens. So we are interfering with nature too much in the name of development. So we are one of the most abundant and widely distributed species. If you see the humans, our cognitive abilities, our intelligence is much higher than any other species. And we are the most dominant species on this planet Earth. But unfortunately, our impact on this planet is negative. Just think of any other species, be it insects, birds, mammals, even plants, amphibians, they all live in harmony with nature. So pandemic, is an example. When the lockdown was imposed or enforced across the country or even across the nations in the world, so the human activities were confined, industrial operations were stopped, vehicular movement was stopped, and what we see as a result, the air pollution, water pollution, it all declined during that lockdown period. So the visibility improved due to less particulate matter. The ambient air quality, that also improved. Even the water in the rivers improved. We had more wildlife sighting. So I don't say that there should be more pandemics, but it's a great reminder to us and how much harm we have caused to the nature, how much loss is happening to the biodiversity. And this is a high time that we should act collectively to reverse the biodiversity loss, and it is in our own benefit. So I hope that today's webinar would greatly benefit all of us. I'll not take much of your time, and I'll just hand over to the speakers. And I'm sure that we'll all be benefited by their views, and we'll have a greater understanding about the biodiversity issues, and we work collectively for the biodiversity conservation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, the first speaker of today's webinar is Dr. Vanit Jishtu. Dr. Vanit Jishtu is field botanist and working as scientist in Himalayan Forest Research Institute, Shimla. Dr. Vanit Jishtu has handled more than 30 projects, consultancies as principal investigator, and he is also involved in establishment of the Western Himalayan Temperate Arboretum near Shimla town, a first native species conservation program in the northwestern Himalayas. He has been a FAO fellow to study coal desert afforestation program with the USDA and also a peer review member of the Cumulative Environment Impact Assessment Committee of the Government of Himachal Pradesh. Dr. Jishtu is recipient of the Brandeis Award for Best Research Paper in Indian Forester 2016 and has featured among the 50 people to know across the Himalaya for working tirelessly and bringing changes in their respective fields. Dr. Jishtu has more than 100 publications, which includes books, book chapters, research papers, research articles, brochures, pamphlets, etc. With this brief introduction, I would like to invite Dr. Jishtu to please deliver his presentation. Over to you, sir.
I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible.
I'm audible now?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, a very good morning to all. First and foremost, I thank Team HIMCOSTE, headed by the organizer, Member Secretary, Joint Member Secretary, Satpalji, Monica, and Ajay. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, to deliver this lecture on this very important day. I also wish Dr. Bharat, eminent scientist, and our neighbor, a very good morning, sir, and Rajesh, who will be delivering on the faunal biodiversity. A very good morning to you. I am right now in Turing, Kenor, and I'm sitting in the Shoal Forest Guest House. And it's a real privilege for me to be, speaking on this occasion. And like in the beginning, I'll say, like Satpal said, that our development is not in sync with the nature and the biodiversity. And nature in itself, he says, that lives in harmony. That is very true. It is us, man, who is impacting the planet in a very unsustainable manner. And what should be ahead in the future should be a sustainable living, which should be the need of the hour. And I will try to, talk on a sustainable biodiversity from the forest, which people are using in a sustainable way and needs a little highlight. So I'll go ahead with my presentation now. I'll share my slide. My slide visible?
Not, sir.
Okay, let me go ahead again. Is it visible now?
No, sir.
Just give some time. Again. Share. Is it visible now?
Not now, sir.
Vinitji, if I suggest that you switch off your video and then you try to share your presentation.
Okay, I'll do that. Let me try. Yeah. Visible? Sharing is coming.
It's not visible as yet.
You know what? I think I'll just talk it because it's a heavy file. Maybe it's taking some time.
Or is it
It's all
possible?
picture.
Yes.
It's come now.
Now it has come.
File maybe biological diversity and which is like we need to consider everything it should be in a sustainable manner. So I selected sustainable, resource from the forest, which is very important resource in rural areas of the state. I think since when we talk about forest biodiversity, I'd like to share some facts in the beginning that among, when you see forest biodiversity, it's among the most mismanaged resources in the country globally. This is partly because they are seriously undervalued. Their environmental benefits are not captured by market values. Uncoordinated policies, maybe it's agriculture, energy, mining, transportation, whatever, they all affect biodiversity and as well as the forest cover. This biodiversity in the forest has a critical role to play in green growth. It can help meet the growing demands for food, fiber, biofuel, shelter, and other bioproducts as the world population increases to 9 billion people by 2050. Because global emissions, the both particularly in remote areas, when it comes to the to access of hundreds of millions of people, in 350 university high and controlled deforestation and development has resulted in severe local and global environmental damages, which is leading to its biodiversity. When we come to the forest resource cycle, in which person living in the village lives, it's the key factor here is sustainable forest management. This maintains balance between the three main pillars of ecology, economy, and socioculture. The management ecosystem major ecological services and restore natural, the resource bank. And the main balancing pillars meeting the needs of the current as well as future generations. If you see, man lies in the cycle, maybe conservation, maybe regulation, or protection or development. It lies in the center of it all. When we come to people and forest management, traditionally, forest management practices aimed at developing understanding of the protective, productive aspects of natural forests. In the very recently, the show a very common it is gone down. In India, in our country, bamboo is equated to Kalp Vriksha. The Rig Veda, about 5000 BC, it states like Rishi prays to God Indra, bestow upon us 100 bamboo clumps. Something in, from God, he wishes for. Now, the aim of this presentation is to develop an understanding regarding the importance of hill bamboo and also highlight this neglected but very important resource for the benefit and survival of certain communities in the state. When you come to bamboos from Himachal, we have in total 6 species. Down in the lower plains, we have Dendrocalamus strictus, we have Dendrocalamus somdevae, bamboos are bambos, and bamboos are Newton. Here I'm concentrating on the hill bamboos, which is Thamnocalamus spathiflorus, which was early known as Arundinaria spathiflora, and Drepanostachium fulcatum, which is early known as Arundinaria fulcata. Coming to the landscape diversity of Himachal and its bamboo distribution, you see in our state, we are lucky to have a altitudinal variation from almost 300 meters to up to over 6,000 meters. And thus, we have a very diverse sort of vegetation in each zone we go. And so is with the bamboos. We have the lower hill bamboos of Dendrocalamus and bamboos are below. Then we have the hill bamboos. First comes the Drepanostachium fulcatum, which has a lower altitudinal distribution, and followed by the Nirgal, the taller Nirgal, which is called the Thamnocalamus spathiflorus. The distribution of both these species is almost in the same habitat. Only difference is the altitude. The lower one, the Drepanostachium, comes from 1200, goes up to 2100 meters, while the Thamnocalamus starts from around 21 and goes up to 32 in the same valley. Now coming to some facts on hill bamboo is that in Himachal, the hill bamboo are commonly known as Nirgal, and their dialectal variations could be Nagal, Nagalti, God, Pelu, etc. It depends on which location or which village you're going to. It generates numerous workdays annually, providing employment to rural folk. Some communities and households in Himachal sustain on bamboo-based handicrafts. Indigenous skills revolve around slivering, weaving, stitching, splitting, layering, inserting, winding, stringing, and pinning, and creating hundreds of beautiful patterns, decoration, and useful products. The fauna also depends on this hill bamboo, especially the pheasants and the bear. It is food and habitat for them. When you see the habitat of this bamboo, it mainly inhabits moist, cool niches in mountain areas and forms a key component of the native flora of the hill states and plays a very significant socio-cultural role in the day-to-day activities of the people. Coming to a socio-cultural significance, the socio-cultural significance of the hill bamboo can be visualized from the diversity of its uses. You can see people carrying a variety of items of daily use in lightweight cone-like bamboo baskets called kilta, a very common sight across the hill state. Hill bamboo comes in very handy in the day-to-day activities of rural folk, and I'll just try to run a video to show you what it means to these people.
इसके बिना इन परिवारों का कोई भी काम चलना बहुत मुश्किल है।
दक्षिण खाना रोटी बनानी, तो इनका मोल खोलना, तो बिन गाल किल्डा लोड़ी, तो इनका गाल जाना, तो भी किल्डा लोड़ी, तो इनका कोई गा ना कोई सूड़ा जाना, सीढ़ी जाना, तो भी किल्डा लोड़ी।
A casual peep into any rural household in the hill states will reveal basketry products of various shapes and sizes on day-to-day basis for the purpose of carriage and storage of household items. It forms an integral part of the culture of the hill people for carriage of material, storage of grains, plucking of apples, winnowing of grains, forming life hedges and stakes for cash crops, etc. So it's a very common sight across the state. And the main product which comes from this bamboo is basketry, wherein weaving of various kinds of baskets and other articles form the major use, and also provides gainful employment to the people year-round. If you see the process of basketry, it is, it's a very tedious process. They go to the forest, they cut the clumps, they bring them back, treat them, and they all sit in a community, to make the kilta. I'll try to show a small visual of the process, how they do it, wherein the entire community, they get together and they work as a group. Someone will start the initial phase, someone will do the finishing. And it's a community-based wherein all the people from the community, they engaged in making this kilta. Coming to the socio-economics of the kilta, a craftsman makes on an average 2 kiltas per day. That would be 2 hours per kilta. One kilta sells for an average of rupees 400, with rates varying from rupees 300 to 350 in village in lean season to around 450 to 500 during the peak season. Kilta is basically a conical shaped basket, and the other biodiversity of the forest which is involved in its preparation are the salix, which they call bashal, Spirea, Kathi, Principia, Bakel, Berberis, Kashmal. This is used to, reinforce this while weaving this basket. It is a preferred mode of load carriage, it being light, about 1.2 kg when dry, and much lighter than similar basket made from other materials. It is sturdy, locally available, and biodegradable. Moreover, it enables the carrier to move with both hands free while negotiating narrow hill paths for optimum balance while carrying loads. So there are the multiple use of kilter you can see in this slide, and the various kilter designs as you grow across the state. Then the other thing is the panilta and the kiltu, which is very famous in this region. The panilta is basically carried by the female's fairer sex to for washing clothes or getting water from the village bawdi. While the kiltu is a smaller version of the kilta, used exclusively for carriage of meals to fields, orchards for social obligation. It is used exclusively by the women folk, especially elder ladies and children. Then I'll just go through some products which they make from hill bamboo. It's called the konda, the chabdi, the tokri, the bauti, khedia chrod for winnowing grains, the shup or shupa for similar purpose. And other miscellaneous uses include, the hookah pie, fishing rods, and each year the State Forest Department exports truckloads to neighboring states of Haryana and Uttar Pradesh for use as hookah pipes, fishing rods, flutes, etc. Hill bamboo is also closely associated with the weaving activity of the ethnic people of Kullu Valley. The two important parts of the weaving activity are the bamboo articles of Kanga and Brua. Both these articles are made from hill bamboo and they form an integral part of each household involved in weaving. Then there's gender subsistence in this basketry because the women folk are the ones which sell them in the market mainly, and this provides them gainful employment. Then in the future for this bamboo is value added products, and you can see like when you grow into these exhibitions and all, you see a lot of products now coming from made from hill bamboo and which are they have added value and color to it. It is capable of commercial application on a bigger scale and can offer an opportunity for the bamboo craftsman community in the remote regions of the state to excel in. We need to create awareness programs, workshops, craft mailers, value addition to enhance their products that could be conducted on a regular basis. These are some of the products you see which can be made from this hill bamboo. The potential of hill bamboo handicrafts is very high, but it has remained largely unrealized. The root cause being the increasing scarcity of the raw material, which is aggregated by the gross inefficiency in its management as we are losing habitat in a very, brisk pace. This craft, however, can provide a much needed supplementary cash income to enhance livelihood in rural areas. There is no accurate assessment of the demand and supply position of this resource, which results in considerable uncertainty and even the prices fluctuation in the market. The overexploitation of the existing forest is threatening the very existence of important genetic resources like the hill bamboo. No specific attention has been paid to improve the supply of raw material by encouraging the rural people to conserve this fast dwindling natural resource. When you see the potentiality for sustainability, it is renewable, can be harvested without damaging the plant and grows extremely quickly. It's plentiful, a great potential for timber quality bamboo. Local, can be grown locally in a small land area. Waste reducing, sequesters carbon and leaves can be used as fodder or compost. In the concluding note, I would say that this group of bamboos is an important resource in the temperate Himalayan socio-economical, cultural, ecological, climatic, and functional context with multi-phase use. It is a fast-growing, renewable, versatile, low or no-cost, environment-friendly resource with the potential to improve livelihood security in the years to come in these regions. After all, forestry is about people. In fact, future of human society is intrinsically linked to the future of forest biodiversity. May the forest resource continue to deliver. I end with this small, video.
हिमाचल के कई परिवार पीढ़ी दर पीढ़ी निर्गाल का काम करते आए हैं। इन परिवारों के लिए निर्गाल जीवन का एक हिस्सा है और जीविका का साधन भी।
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for very informative presentation on hill bamboo. Now, next speaker of today's webinar is Dr. S.P. Bharat. Dr. S.P. Bharat is retired Joint Director from Dr. Vice Parmar University of Horticulture and Forestry, Solan. Dr. Bharat has served as professor in Department of Entomology and Apiculture and has more than 39 years of experience in teaching, research, and extension education. Dr. S.P. Bharat is founder Vice Chancellor of Manav Bharati University, Solan, Himachal Pradesh. Dr. Bharat has many research publications in international and national journals, and he is a regular contributor of articles in magazines and regional newspapers. Dr. Bharat is chairman and expert member of selection committees of many institutions and universities. He is also chairman of India Meteorological Society Himachal chapter since 2017. Currently, he is in touch with thousands of apple growers from Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and Jammu and Kashmir, addressing their day-to-day problems and giving them eco-friendly solutions to produce quality fruit crop. With this introduction, I would like to invite Dr. S.P. Bharadwaj to please deliver his lecture on biodiversity and its significance in relation to insect fauna. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Priyanka. Thank you indeed. I'm grateful to HIMCOSTE and particularly ENVIS for having given me this opportunity to have some interaction on the Biodiversity Day, which is being celebrated on each year on 22nd May. And biodiversity, as we all understand, is of paramount significance, and without biodiversity, nothing can happen, whatever we may call. Next. Simply to refresh your memories, biodiversity, as we know, is the diversity or the forms of all kinds of life, whether it is animal, microorganism, or plants. And this includes their genetic diversity as well as the various ecosystems where it is actually existing. So within biodiversity, the biodiversity may be within the species and between the species and within and between the ecosystems. This encompasses virtually all forms from Himalayan region down to the ocean. You see terrestrial, marine, other sources. And because every ecosystem will have a different type set of animals, different set of life, and having a different set of interaction, this is giving a lot of life, not only to the individuals concerned or organism, but also contributing for the sustenance of the ecological processes throughout the ecosystem. Next. So these are some of the type of the biodiversity. We may have one is ecosystem, another one is genetic biodiversity, then species, forest, marine, agriculture biodiversity. So naturally, each of them will have a different set of organisms, different set of animals, plants, and as well as the microorganisms. So each will not, they will exchange the energy and matter in a continuous manner to survive and share their values and also sustain the system on long-term basis. Next. So genetic diversity, as we understand, is the information that is contained in the form of the genes as a genetic code, and number of species, because when the species varies from one, because you will get maximum number of species in an area which is actually the origin of that particular area or the species. So the number of plants or the number of any animal one will get only in the area where it has originated, because of the diversity that occurs within the species. So hold true in case of ecosystem also, because the habitats, the ecological processes that have their interaction in that very particular system that sustain not only the plants, flora, microorganisms, insects, mites, and other forms of life, which ultimately contribute in various processes, particularly the nutrient cycle, the decomposition, and also making various nutrients available for the consumption of human beings. Next. Generally, if we discuss something little bit about the ecosystems, so these are actually based on the basis of the geographical or geological features. Because when we have mountains, when we have oceans, then we have deserts, and when we have island or plateau type of you see feature, geographical features. So naturally, the climatic condition of that very area would be very, very different than those among themselves and also from each one of them. So they will have a different type of vegetative cover. So they are classified as mountainous, island, ocean ecosystem, or likewise forest ecosystem, grassland, mangroves, and desert ecosystem. We have all this in our country because of the diverse agroclimatic conditions and spread across the length and breadth of the country. So the climatic conditions also determine the moisture that is present in the air, and also because the moisture is the main determinant of the vegetation. If there is a less moisture, less than 20%, we consider that as an arid region. And when the semi-arid regions are there, they are in the southern plateau. And then predominantly we have cold deserts here in the state of Himachal, which is Laos, Spiti, and Pangi region, Barmar, Pangi, and as well as Spiti of Himachal Pradesh, where there is no abundance of other type of plants, big plants. I mean, we know there is no coniferous and other trees, but small bush-like or very bushy type of plants and some grasses, and also have certain type of different type of vegetation. So this actually, when there is a less or the variation in the snow, the rainfall pattern consistently over many years, which we call as a climate. So that determines the soil characteristics, and ultimately this helps develop the plantation and ultimately the animals on that. Next. So as I just told you that these are some of the natural habitats: forests, grassland, wetlands, mangroves, coral reef deserts, and also next. Because this is a type of the diversity that you will get altogether different from the ones which one cannot even think of. So naturally, the genetic characteristics in case of genetic diversity, because the genetic makeup is different. They may be phenotypically different, but actually they are genetically different. So then there is a difference in the characteristics of those species, then between the individuals as well as among the species. So the changing environment actually determines the genetic behavior of those species, and ultimately we get a population which is having a wide variation than those of their parents. For example, I just cited 2-3 examples. One is that of rice. Across the world, we have 88,000 varieties of rice, but all are not used by humans for their consumption. So, hold true in case of apples. We have across the globe 15,000 varieties, and mangoes even in India have more than 5,000 varieties. So they grow at different times of the year and also have different taste, different shape, and different characteristics. So naturally, so why is that so much of variation? The variation is on account of the adaptation of these genes to particular atmosphere, particular climatic condition, and then having changed its behavior according to for this sake of survival. So naturally, those variations help us overcome certain problems, which I will cite a little later, because the disease, because the ones which are not very sweet or edible have the characteristics of fighting the diseases as well as pests. So the genes, if we take it from there, so naturally, and then cross it with the genes which is of a commercial variety, so then we get a different hybrid, and that is even sometimes more resistant to the problems which the humanity faces. Next. So this I just delineated some of the crops which are native to India. For example, black pepper, as we know, then bear, brinjal, mango is Mangifera indica, as we know, imdi, drumstick, that we call. Then turmeric, is also native in the cucumber, jackfruit, likewise black gram, then tree cotton, then many other sorts of the sesame. This is we call it a till, and then we have many onion. So there are many you see crops which are native to India, and naturally we have here a lot of genetic variation here in these crops. Next. So in case of agriculture diversity, what happens is that in forest biodiversity or even ocean diversity, there is a least interference by human behavior. So in case of agriculture biodiversity, there is a monoculture, there are very selective crops which are of high commercial use, and secondly, there is acute disturbance or disruption by the humans. So ultimately, this leads to a change in the environmental condition. Here we have a set type of problems. They may be insects, they may be diseases, viruses, bacteria, or even mites, and even the soil fauna that also tend to change with regard to the condition that exists under agriculture biodiversity condition. So we do have under these conditions various native enemies, whether they be predators, parasites, or even those plants which can help contain the diseases as well as the pests. They are also occurs altogether, but they need to be identified. Unless we know the importance of each and every species of the plant, it will be of no use for a general or a common man. But ultimately, it is the duty of the scientific fraternity to identify each and every plant that is existing there, because it is existing because of a certain purpose. Without purpose, there exists nothing. We may or may not understand, or we may not know the real reason of its existence there in a particular ecosystem. Next. So India, fortunately, has the privilege of situation of three realms, that is a trifunction, that is Afrotropical, Indo-Malayan, and Paleo-Arctic realms. So actually what happens when we have such set of conditions, so we expect to have a large variety of the biodiversity, and naturally because of the change in the pattern of the systems. So this actually helps us in having a large number of biodiversity, but some of the other efforts have been made earlier, and they are being made even today to record the number of various species occurring in each ecosystem. But actually, the total number that we have recorded so far is not much more than what it actually is existing, because the scientific pursuit, actually the identification of the problem or the pest, mite, or any organism is when it becomes of economic value, because if it is causing some damage or some problem on a commercial crop, only then the scientist's eye is attracted, and then they help solve the problem, because it is a commercial use and the farmers or the growers are getting a huge amount of money for sustaining their life on those very particular crops. So that is the main difference. Next. So there are many biographical zones have been identified here. In India, there are 10, which have been subdivided further into 25. So I will just like to name them. One is Trans-Himalayan. Here it has 3 provinces: Ladakh, Mountain, Tibetan, and Trans-Himalayan Sikkim. Then comes the Himalayas. We have 4 provinces. Himachal is covered under the Himalayas, which is Northwest Himalaya, West Himalaya, Central one, and last one, the East Himalaya. So the Himalaya covers almost 6% of the total geographical area of the state. And next, and then we have the deserts. One very famous. We have the Thar forest is a very famous area where we have sanctuaries. Tigers are being multiplied, or when we have a large population of Indian tiger there in the Thar forest. Same hold true in case of semi-arid condition. Then we have these conditions are met in a state like Punjab, Gujarat, and Rajasthan. And we have a different set of agroclimatic conditions there. Next. So the Then we have Western Ghats. They are very rich in the biodiversity because of the abundance of moisture there. Because moisture is the main determinant. I just highlighted the importance of moisture because moisture nothing can actually sustain. If life is there, moisture has to be there. So the Malabar Plains, Western Ghats, these are the ones, you see, provinces where we get a lot of biodiversity in these particular areas. That's it. In Deccan Plateau, we have 5 provinces. These have been identified as 5 central highlands: Chota Nagpur, Eastern Highlands, Central Plateau, and Deccan South. Then the coast. 3 provinces have been carved out of it: West Coast, East Coast, and Lakshadweep. So naturally, the maximum we have genetic plains, the upper genetic plain and lower genetic plains. And the other one is northeast India, that is Brahmaputra Valley and north east hills. Then comes then we have a few islands, particularly Andaman Nicobar Islands, which are very rich in the biodiversity. So because of the least disturbance by humans and also having plenty of moisture there all around, and also a different set of vegetation which is least disturbed by human activities. Next. According to one estimate, if it lives for 50 years, it generates oxygen to the extent of it generates, as to one estimate, 5.3 lakhs value oxygen, which can be of a very high paramount importance, and it controls 6.4 lakh worth of soil erosion, which we would have to spend otherwise. Then air pollution is the main concern of the day, and actually trees, they contribute immensely because trees are the only factory which can generate oxygen, which can manufacture oxygen, which can check soil erosion. So would be in case of air pollution, because it is a storehouse of CO2. So the fertility, if it is counted, then it has been estimated to contribute to the extent of 6.4 lakhs. And then besides, we get plenty of flowers, fruits, and timber value. And then if we take all these parameters in, if we count them, then it is worth 34 lakhs per tree of 50 years of age. So it is a huge contribution by trees. So this gives, this example has been cited only to just ignite your inner energy to make you feel that a tree is any tree which is grown or contributes immensely. We may not be knowing its value, but this is for it. This is a calculation made for that purpose. And the main contributors to the biodiversity, cleanliness of environment, as also told by the Honorable Joint Member Secretary Satpal Malikji, Diwan that if trees exist, so exists the environment. If there are more trees, naturally then we are going to have a clean environment. So we must at least contribute in planting trees and also taking special care of maintaining at least once a year, whether it is summer, whether it's a winter time or it is a monsoon rains time, or then we think of having plantation trees. Next. So everyone knows that what is the contributions of biodiversity. Just to highlight few of it, though the oxygen, which is without which the no organism can live, it generates oxygen. It is a factory of oxygen, and then it has the capacity to absorb the carbon dioxide also. Then in turn we get the pure air, and the water quality is also increased. Then it provides us plenty of food, fruits, vegetables, which is very essential to maintain life system. Then pollution, as we have pointed out. Then soil salinity, it also contributes in reducing soil salinity to a greater extent. It provides habitat refuge. It is a great source of raw material. And actually, Then it helps in, you see, nutrient cycling, establishing nutrient cycle. Then because the nutrients, whatever you get in forests are actually, then they are percolated down to the slopy, through the slopy land, through the water, and it is made available to the crops which are being grown there. And it helps in growing natural crops on what we call is organic basis or organic crops, or that we call is organic farming. It helps in waste treatment. Climate regulation is done by the biodiversity. Gas regulation naturally occurs, and it also generates a lot of income by way of promoting ecotourism, because many of the population, those we find them, you see, staying either in the cities, metro cities, they do not have a chance to see the kind of the biodiversity and the kind of the animals, plants that grow under a different ecosystem, and they are prevalent in the country. So these actually help us sustain the system, and also they help in conservation of the environment as well as the sustainability of the ecological processes. Next. So the main, you see the water, is purified under what, say groundwater is recharged, soil formation takes place. Then it also helps, you see, prevent soil erosion, because it has the capacity to hold the soil by its roots. And then the soil salinity is also reduced, and it helps in detoxifying the entire process and making things very clean and clear. Next. It provides not only the above factors, but also medicines, timber, oil, fuel, manure, lubricants, cosmetics, and many other things. So naturally, it helps in promoting the each and every process of life which we require, and even certain medicinal plants that you get in the forest, they are of high value, and they give us perfumes, latex, resins, fragrances, and even some poisonous plants are also there, which are used for treatment of certain ailments in human beings as well as in animals. Next, please. Next. So what this biodiversity contribute in the field arena of science? It provides the scientist to conduct research on various issues which are of paramount importance during that very particular time. Then it gives education. Then it helps in multiplying or developing the better crop varieties, helps in management in the pests and other pest complex as well, provides huge quantity of industrial material for use in different, you see, in different parameters of which are required in different processes of life, or for manufacturing or some other purpose. Then it helps in regulating the climate as well as the gas and the regulation in the environment. Next. Humans have always been dependent on bioflora, the biodiversity which is existing near where they have been having their habitats. So the overall health of the human and their well-being has always been in the epicenter of the biodiversity. So this is a very huge source of you see for food, because as human body we require not only one type of food, but we require different minerals which are made available to us by the diversity which is prevalent in and around the area. And it is also known to each and every one of us that the biodiversity, one must consume the food in and around where you are living. So it is all the seasonal food, that is seasonal vegetables, seasonal crops, seasonal fruit, or seasonal grown crops are the best, because they not only act as a food but also as a medicine. So anything which is grown, just for example, this is a time of summer. This is summer time actually. When I am citing one example of mango. Mango, when it is a small fruit, it can be our ancestors have been using it as a chutney, and even it is very sour in taste. but it helps overcome the problem of flu. The main you see the problem that we can come across during the high temperature realms. So there are medicines available, homemade remedies, which are actually of paramount importance and can be tried and because they are tried and tested by our ancestors and they hold equally good even in the present condition. So we can say that the forest and the biodiversity acts as a medicine for humans and various other forms of animals. Next. Across the globe, about 100 million species, this is an estimate on Earth, and even 1.9 million species have been described so far. So this is hardly, you see, you can say very less amount. You can say only 2% of the total species described, and that means 98% of the species still remain to be described. And we must make all out efforts to describe these species and pen it down and also note all the relevant information so as to understand the complexity of the nature and also get the advantage that we can think of having out of them. Next. When we discuss about the Indian scenario, we are all aware that the geographical features, biophysical, we have different type of ecosystems as told earlier also. So naturally we have different forest, grassland, coastal, terrestrial, desert, and marine ecosystem, and there is a wide variety of the ecosystem here existing in the country. So meaning thereby that the number of species existing in the country are unlimited, but they need to be identified on priority. So 1.9 million species as per the record identified. So in you see 1.26 million have been described, not million, 1.2 lakhs have been described in India. So the flowering plants are, as per the record, 17,500, and those are angiosperms. They constitute about 7%, and then the other invertebrates, they constitute 17.3%. So the fungi and insects actually they are the main contributor as per the Indian biodiversity is concerned. So hold true in case of the world also. The next. These are the wild plants which have been recorded, 47,000. Then flowering plants, angiosperms, 7,500. These are nearly 5,000 are the endemic ones. So the animals, nearly 1 lakh. Then wild relatives of cultivated crops, about 320. Then 139 species of plants and microbes. These are they represent in different 16 types, 251 subtypes, in climatic and adaptive conditions. Next. If we discuss about India's share, it is about 13% in biodiversity. Grassland nearly 4%, borders are 2%, 4.1 million hectare in wetland ecosystem. Next. So this is just the number of plant species is approximately the number is 12.5%. The animal species is about 7% of the world fauna. The next one. Insects stand at number 1, 60,000 as far as the Indian biodiversity picture is there. Then these are mollusks, fishes, birds, mammals, reptiles, amphibians. This is the number, but it is very low. And that may be because we find certain examples. Few new, you see, reptiles have been found now. Even in the birds have been found in eastern Himalayan region because they have not been observed by the scientists earlier. We need to seek the assistance of the local habitants there because they have more knowledge than us because they are living there since ages there. So we, as scientists, must not only search at their own level but also seek the assistance of the local population. Next. When we talk about Himachal Pradesh, it is a very small state, as we know, having nearly 70 lakh population as on today. So it constitutes about 1.7% of the area country, but the faunistic belt, faunistic and as well as the fauna belt is very rich, diverse and unique because of the geographical location. We are very close to the Himalayas, where we have you see alpine climate, then we have temperate, subtemperate, then tropical and subtropical climate here. So naturally we have very diverse climatic conditions, but the number reported so far is not much. So this is number 5,721 out of the 1,03,000 species that are reported in India. So if we talk about the plants, nearly 3,300. So higher plants, then we have the angiosperms, 3,000, slightly over 3,000. Gymnosperms only 13. Pteridophytes 124. Orchids we have good number, not that good as the case with Northeast, but it is 38 species have been recorded so far. Next. Good work has been done as far as the avian biodiversity is concerned. It is stand at present 463, 77 mammalians, 44 reptile species, and 80 fish species. But there are very likely of having more number of species as far as these surveys are concerned. The UNESCO World Heritage Site, we are here as known as Great Himalayan National Park. And then another national park is there in Pink Valley, Laos Spiti, and 30 wildlife sanctuaries and 3 conservation reserves existing in Himachal Pradesh. That will also ultimately add more number of species in times to come. But we need is simply to have a very, very close eye as to what are the ones which are existing there, what are the additions, new additions into these sanctuaries and these conservation reserves. Next. When we talk of insect, the insect is considered to have existed normally on Earth in 350 million years ago, and it is considered as one of the successful forms. And as compared to humans, which are known to have existed 2 million years ago, so we are the last residents of this planet, as per the records, scientific records goes. Next. Insects, as we know, this is the most diverse, and so far 1 million have been described species. They contain harmful as well as helpful species. Helpful are the pollinators, biological control agents, and then they also help, and you see, decay the material, decay and feed on them, and also help in controlling pests and predators, pests and different problems in the field. Then harmful are the ones which cause the damage the crops, commercial crops or even other crops, cause disease vectors are also to exist with them. And sorry, they have been a remarkable material for the researchers to understand the complexities of the nature, and it has been a very useful tool for understanding the nature, and also develop the instruments and equipments as per the behavior of the insects. And there are many which I will just cite next week. Fortunately, the insects are not more than 2% of the population, total insects, which act as a pests or the enemies of the crops, but they in turn help in pollination and containing and undergoing the process of pollination, and then they produce honey, silk, and lac also. Next. Different type of, just I will show you some of the pictures of the larvae. Larvae, we have different caterpillars, we have loopers, they move by, because if we have less number of legs, then they form a loop. If they are with little more on 9 and 10 segment, if they have the legs, those are pseudo legs, then they are looper. Then there are semi-loopers also. Next, then caterpillars. So the classification is based on the mouth parts, wings, antennae, and metamorphosis in case of all the animals. Next. The Insects have been of paramount importance in playing a role in ecology, and they have a greater influence in agriculture, human health, and also they have also been considered landmark in biomechanics, climate change, then studying the biology, ecological evolution, genetics, and paleoimmunology. Next. Insects have a great capacity for adaptation in extreme environments, and one can find them from even near the mountains where you get plenty of snow, even under the sea, any sea, and everywhere you will find them to occur. So they have adapted, and they feed naturally on different ecosystems and different variety of foods and plants. Next. They have developed different type of, you see, appendages in their body, which may be a defense, for a poison, for, you see, helping the various processes in the making, which are useful for the biodiversity. Most of the insects, virtually they live on land, and some of them are aquatic as well, and about 3-4 species what we see among the animals, they are the insects. Next. There are many families of insects, and particularly these 4 Coleoptera, which contains beetles. I will show some on this photograph, and most of you might have seen it earlier also. Leptoptera, moths and butterflies; Diptera, flies and mosquitoes; Hymenoptera, honeybees and different other wasps, and they account for almost 81% of the living population. So the next please. So this is a damage done by a cabbage butterfly on the cabbage leaf, and you can see one caterpillar feeding on cabbage. This is, now you will find the white butterfly even in Shimla region. They are migrating now from the plains and coming to the even to a region known as Kinnaur, where they will be spending the summer there, and then they will be visiting, then coming back to during winter. So maximum generation is spent there. So from generation to generation, but they know that what are where the root, where is the crop, and how to do, because of their extremely sensitive senses. So approximately 25% of them are the plant feeding insects. Next. These are different types of eggs one find across when you visit any plant. So be careful that all are not enemies, some are friends. And there are different types of, they are laid in very sequences, very fine architectural process you will find, laid very symbolically, and they are very attractive to see also on the underside of the leaf or even maybe on the twig. Next. These are the caterpillars, different types. If you look at these, they look very ferocious, because this is also a kind of the defense adapted by them, so that for survival as well. Next, please. These are the caterpillars, and you see the hairy caterpillar, because if you touch it, it will be very allergic to the skin. Next. So hold to in this case also, these are also different shades of the caterpillars forms, and they have different types of shapes, size, and the color, as well as the appendages. Next. Ultimately, they will turn into a beautiful butterfly. Next. This is on apple. This is Apis mellifera, and very not Apis mellifera. This is Apis. This is leaf. We call it as. I'm just forgetting the name. The leaf roller, actually. Leaf roller is the name. And they also cover, as you see on the other side of the leaf, you see find a small bevel-like structure under which you will find a cocoon of a pupa of a caterpillar. This is on apple. Next. These are the different type of pupa which get, you see, appendage. They get attached to the twigs on the hair, so that as to provide protection for themselves. And ultimately, the final stage will be butterfly or a moth. Next. So this is again pupa. So the mimicry, they have I will show you some of the slides which are very interesting, and also you will find that it is difficult to observe the insect because of the maybe the color of the tree bark or the tree. Yeah. Next. You see here, difficult to find, but the insects are there on the tree. So they change their color, and they will land only on those trees which are identical to their wings, or so as not to get themselves identified. Next. These are hawk moths. They are very, they do occur during the night, nocturnal in habit, but they are the pests also. They feed on great variety of crops, for example, citrus and other crops. Next. This is also moths. They are fruit-sucking moths. Next. This is also caterpillar. You look at the caterpillar, it looks almost a part of the plant. So you see the mimicry. It is not easily seen. Standard scale. It is also very microscopic insect, having produced waxes on its body, and the yellow colored insect is beneath the scale. And if not observed on time, it will kill the insect within a very huge plant within 2 to 3 years. Next. This is a looper, as I told earlier. It forms a loop, and it has the end caterpillar, as you see on the road, when it is under construction, has been developed following the behavior of this insect. This is the name of caterpillar. So they write it now cat, C-A-T. This is the same one. Because it can hang on the last 2 legs, and it can swing around even in the air without falling down. So is the technology developed by looking into the behavior of this particular insect, and name as caterpillar. Next. These are the useful ones. This is ladybird beetle, Septum punctata. Plenty of them is found during this time. So we advise farmer not to use any chemical or any pesticide during this period, simply to conserve their population. So if they are there, majority of the problems soft-bodied insects are controlled. Next. These are butterflies, beautiful to look at. They help in pollination also. Next, please. This is also monarch butterfly, having a very huge. Has a very long history. So next, time is a constraint. So these are the honeybees, different types. Indian honeybee, Apis cerana indica, and on the right you find is the Italian honeybee, Apis mellifera. So as next. So the bees, there are about 100 crops which we use as a food across the globe, and 90% of the food is produced by these 100 crops, and 71% of the pollination is done in these 100 crops by the honeybees alone, only by the bees alone. Next, please. So just look at because bees, if the bees are not there, so we will not be having any food to eat, and ultimately, as per one estimate, for example, one estimate was given by a Nobel scientist. He said that if we exclude the honeybees from the ecosystem, the life of the individual the humans would just be 4 years. Next, this is silk moth. This is a lac insect. They are a useful one. Silk bee, whatever silk we get from these insects. So hold true in case of lac insect. Next, please. So lac insect, we have the main leading producers, Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh. So they are used in making dyes, varnish scales, and post office stamps. Next, please. So this is Polypton order, the biggest order. So far, nearly 360,000 species have been described. This is the most diverse group on Earth. Second. Then is Leptoptera. Next, please. This is Hymenoptera. We have mostly wasps, hornets, bees, ants. They present this one. There are many paper wasps, yellow jacket, bumblebee. Bumblebee is also a very useful insect. It helps in fertilizing or in pollination many crops. Next, please. This is Leptoptera. Bugs, you find them, the number so far recorded about 39,300. Be great variety in them. Next, this is Leptoptera, 180,000 species, 126 families, and 10% of the total described species of living organisms represent this group. This is very effective. They are very effective and very sensitive in detecting the environmental changes. If there is some change in the temperature, then there is a behavioral change, and they will also detect the even the pollution they detect. So we need to use them as a tool for studies. Next, please. This is DIPTERA. This is also one of the most diverse group. 150,000 species is described across the world. But here in India, we have very least number. Even in Himachal, we don't have much. So they next, the pollination they do. They are the two flies, we call it. They have two wings. So the fruit flies are the pest, house flies are the pest. House flies is a nuisance, and help in multiplying many diseases. And mosquito is also one of the nuisance that we get across. Next. Then this is used as a diagnostic in forensic, as a tool in forensic and medical legal and medical of importance. They represent California family, Hornid family. These 4 or 5 families represent, and because they arrive at a vertebrate carry on. If there is a death, ultimately the act by the flies, because there is a smell produced by the body that is perceived by them, and through them they come and then lay the egg inside the body. That devour the body and produce foul smell, and then one comes to know that something bad has happened here. So they are the ones, even in the animals and other, they help in cleaning the environment. Next, the dead body. So they serve as a very great source of scavengers and decomposers. So next, please. These are the different forms. One can see different forms of the different group immature stages. These are known as grubs. So next, please. So these are the insect-borne diseases. Actually, 10 millions of humans have been killed because of these insect-borne diseases. Earlier one, the typhus. Then this is a pediculous lice, that is, we call it a Jew. Then the Chagas disease, also carried by a tritomate bugs. This was also a very serious problem during the preceding years. Next. Then came the plague. This is Plutex, Pulex and Xenocylla fleas. Issue that we call. These are the ones now under control, because you find them maximum on wild animals, including rats, because if someone is affected by this bacterium, so naturally then there is very less chances of survival. Sleeping sickness is also CC fly. Fortunately, this does not occur in India, but occurs in the African continent. Malaria, plasmodium, as we understand, is the carrier that is carried by the Anopheles mosquito. Yellow fever is also Aedes aegypti, is a mosquito which is causing a great loss of human life in those underdeveloped countries. Next, please. Insect is also considered as a food for lizards, predators, amphibians, and etc. Next, please. So birds, they also take insects as a food, and during different parts of the year. And next, please. So these are the grubs, which can just be 4 inches long, and this is the adult. It is a voracious feeder of roots, and it can kill even a deodar tree within 2 to 3 years by just cutting off its root system. And it is also a pest vector. Next, please. This is the most example of a brown plant of Nilaba rubens. It is estimated to cause 1.3 billion dollar loss to rice crop in Southeast Asia. This is a very serious cost, and millions of rupees are being spent for maintaining how to contain the problem. Next. Desert locust, fortunately, is not a very serious problem. It is now being looked after, being monitored through radar system. Otherwise, this is a grasshopper, but it takes the form of a desert locust, and mostly the breeding takes place in the deserts, particularly Mauritania, Western Sahara, Morocco, and Algeria, and then that ultimately breeding takes place in countries like Sudan, Yemen, Saudi Arabia, Oman, which is actually deserts, and then small scale also you see in Pakistan area and then in Iran. And then ultimately they take a flight from the northwest sector, entering the state of Punjab, Rajasthan, and then you see even up to Haryana and even up to Delhi. So insect vectors, these are the diseases which I have already described. Next please. Insects, they act as a, you see, for ecological studies, evolutionary studies, genetic studies, physiological studies, and aerodynamics and biomechanics, and even climate change. They help understanding the science and also contribute a lot by when we look at their behavior, and then because that gives us a clue that what can be the possible uh, uh, vision that we can adopt to contain any problem. Next thing. These are the climate change indicators. They are very sensitive to climate. When you observe some these butterflies there, they will not exist there. Their number is reduced. So that gives an indication that there is something wrong with the climate. Next, please. Or pollution. These are aquatic mayflies, Ephemeroptera, dragonflies. Dragonfly has been the aeroplanes have been developed on dragonflies, and billions of dollars are being spent on the U.S. Science Department to understand the dragonfly, because when it takes the flight, it can just go vertically, horizontally, it can stand just like a helicopter, and it will not struck any obstruction. So if this technology is used, understood, it has not been understood completely as yet. If it is now understood at this point, there will be no airplane accidents, because if there is any obstruction, if any plane comes closer, if there is some in foggy condition, if there is some mountain or anything else, this will help. Stone flies, there are many, you see, bugs, hemiptera. So next, these are all aquatic. So mites are of very importance in the context, because they are very small in size, 0.1 to 6 millimeter. They have 4 pair of legs in adult stage, whereas insects have 3. They can breathe through skin as well as trachea. They live almost everywhere in every habitat of Earth. Next, please. So the right one, which you have seen, which is transparent, maximum dust. This is a dust mite. So dust mite. This is an apple mite, which we find in apple also. This is dust mite is always present in carpets or anything which is not cleaned very properly. Next, and these are some of the. So leaf pollen allergy they produce, and naturally next week. Their estimated number is about 500,000 to 150,000. So, and so far only 63 species of mice have been described. They represent 500 families and 500-600 genera. A vast majority is yet to be identified. Next, reported. The most important is that how the taxonomy, how the naming of these creature or these organisms has to take place. So the taxonomy comes into the picture. So taxonomy is the classification, then naming of the particular individual and this animal species. So most of them have been sometimes misidentified. So we need the systematic study and then the taxonomic specialist, because their number is also reducing, and now there is a DNA assisted species you see taxonomy DNA based on DNA, because this will ultimately help save the labor as well as time, and also determine now this process is on. ICL also doing a lot of work on this, and various pests which have been recorded here in under Indian condition. Next. So the insect taxonomy it is not an easier one. It is a very you see tenuous process. Number of taxonomies in the country are declining. So is the case in the world. So we need to concentrate on this very aspect also, and to increase the understanding of biodiversity, because if we do not know that what kind of pest, what kind of insect, what kind of organism is it, so without taxonomy nothing can happen. Next please. Then this need, whatever knowledge we have, it must be published in a common language and dispersed in the communities at panchayat level, so as to at least inform a commoner that these are the ones which are required, which are useful, these are harmful, and they must, because everyone cannot go everywhere, but the local communities can help determine if they identify these. So the floral as well as the animal diversity must be made a common program as far as the if you want to make the biodiversity as a household name. Next, please. Texas bacata, as we all know, this was not at all a problem. At that time, it was not considered as a valuable plant, but now it is considered as a most certain treatment of many type of cancer. Next. Next. So we need to include plant, insect, microorganisms, and other reported in agro-horticulture systems, and include them in the biodiversity program, because when we go through the report, these I have tried to collect as a member of this expert group. So we have tried to give some names, but all have not been corrected because people don't understand the importance. So they just look at the big animals and big creatures and big plants. They don't feel the importance of the small creatures. Ultimately, they are contributing immensely in sustaining these systems. Next, please. So the knowledge as far as the biodiversity goes, it is incomplete as of now, and it will remain so. But we must have efforts to compensate the losses caused and the species which are of importance and or of some use in that locality. So we must, as scientists, describe these species as far as to enhance the diversity, and the number which are very common must be next. The number which are very common must also be made, you see, made popular among the masses. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for very informative and detailed presentation on the importance of biodiversity with the special reference to insect fauna. So, any question from the audience? If there is no question, then we'll move to the last presentation of today's webinar. So, the last speaker of today's webinar is Shri Rajesh Kumar Sharma ji. Shri Rajesh Kumar Sharma is wildlife expert and from Himachal Pradesh Forest Services. He has served as ACF Wildlife Hamirpur, DFO Wildlife Spiti, and DFO Wildlife Shimla. And presently, he is posted as Project Director EIACP Forestry Project of Himachal Pradesh Forest Department. With this brief introduction, I would like to invite Shri Rajesh Kumar Sharma ji to please deliver his presentation on faunal biodiversity of Himachal Pradesh. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. As Madam has introduced me very well, so I was listening to other speakers also. The last presentation was also concerned with fauna diversity. So इस प्रेजेंटेशन में काफ़ी अच्छी तरह से जो लास्ट प्रेजेंटेशन हुई स्टैटिस्टिकल डाटा faunal diversity of हिमाचल प्रदेश के बारे में, इवन इंडिया के बारे में बताया. तो और इंसेक्ट्स पोर्शन को तो काफ़ी अच्छी तरह से कवर कर दिया गया. So is it okay if I speak in Hindi as well as in English, or
Yes.
only English?
Yes, it's fine, sir.
Okay. So मेरा जो फोकस रहेगा, I will not go much into the statistical data. मेरा फोकस है कि हिमाचल के जो मेगा फौना है, क्योंकि फौनल डाइवर्सिटी इतनी ज़्यादा है, इसमें इतने वेरियस है, जैसे एक्वेटिक हो गए, टेरिस्ट्रियल है, बर्ड्स हैं, इंसेक्ट्स हैं, फिशेस हैं, देयर आर सो मेनी स्पीसीज. तो मैं जस्ट इंट्रोड्यूस करना चाहूँगा जो डिफरेंट हमारी जोन्स हैं हिमाचल की, उसमें जो मेगा फौना तो पाया जाता है. दैट विल बी माय मेन फोकस. सो आई वुड लाइक टू शेयर द प्रेजेंटेशन. Is it visible?
No, sir. Presentation is
original, sir.
सर दिख रही है सर अब।
दिख रही है?
जी सर 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 इसको फुल कर दीजिए, फुल मोड में ना, स्लाइड शो मोड में।
सो जैसे हिमाचल,
सर इसको फुल स्क्रीन कर दीजिए।
फुल स्क्रीन कर दी गई है।
ओके ओके,
शायद आपके पास नहीं आ रही होगी।
तो कोई नहीं सर, आप कंटिन्यू कीजिए प्लीज।
सो हिमाचल, जैसे हम जानते हैं, हिमाचल इज ए स्टेट विच हैज डिफरेंट climatic zones as explained earlier and different topographical zones. We have Sivaliks, we have Middle Himalayas, we have Trans Himalayas. So even the number of species may be less, but हमारा जो एरिया है जितना हिमाचल का, उसके हिसाब से ये स्पीसीज भी काफी ज्यादा है, काफी डाइवर्स है। और डाइवर्सिटी क्योंकि हमारे पास डिफरेंट जोन्स हैं, ट्रांस हिमालयस हैं, सिवालिक्स हैं, देन मिडिल हिमालयस हैं, उस हिसाब से काफी ज्यादा डाइवर्सिटी है। तो हिमाचल जैसे हम आते हैं एनिमल्स मेगाफोना पे पहले कि किस तरह के यहाँ पे मेगाफोना, ये बहुत बेसिक प्रेजेंटेशन है। इट इज आई थिंक इट इज नॉट फॉर दोज हु आर क्वाइट एक्सपर्ट इन दिस फील्ड। तो हमारे पास जैसे हर्बीवोर्स, कार्निवोर और ओमनिवोर्स, 3 टाइप्स की कैटेगरी में अगर हम मेजर कैटेगरी में लें फोना को, तो हर्बीवोर्स के अंदर हमारे पास हिमाचल में एंटीलोप्स हैं, डियर्स हैं, पिग्स हैं। इस कैटेगरी को अंगुलेट्स में हम सम अप करते हैं। देन इन कार्निवोर्स वी हैव फेलाइंस, कैनाइंस एंड रेप्टाइल्स। ओमनिवोर्स जो शाकाहारी भी हैं, मांसाहारी भी हैं। इनमें कुछ स्पेशलिस्ट हैं, जैसे इनमें फ्रूगीवोरस है, इंसेक्टिवोर्स हैं एंड ग्रेनिवोर्स। से एक मेजर सा आउटलाइन है किस कैटेगरी में है। अगर हम, अब मेरा फोकस ये है कि किस टाइप के एनिमल है प्रेजेंट हमारे पास, हम उनको एक फोटोग्राफिक प्रेजेंटेशन के जरिए देखें। तो अगर हम एंटीलोप्स में लें तो टोटल अंगुलेट्स नियर अबाउट 40 स्पीसीज हैं जो इंडिया में हैं। उनमें से 10 स्पीसीज हिमाचल में मिलेंगी, जिनमें एंटीलोप्स भी हैं, अंगुलेट्स भी हैं, पिग्स हैं। तो एंटीलोप्स वो कैटेगरी है जो हॉर्न्ड एनिमल है, हॉर्न्स आर ऑलवेज परमानेंट। तो इस कैटेगरी में जो हिमाचल में स्पीसीज पाई जाती हैं, थोड़ा सा मैं वो दिखाना चाहूंगा कौन कौन सी हैं। सबसे पहले हमारे पास ब्लू बुल विच इज लार्जेस्ट ऑफ एंटीलोप इन हिमाचल। सो ब्लू बुल लोअर एलिवेशन में, सिवालिक्स में इसकी मेन प्रेजेंस रहती है। नीलगाय इसको हिंदी में बोलते हैं। ब्लू बुल, इसमें फीमेल जो ब्राउन कलर की रहती है। ब्लू बुल इसका नाम मेल की वजह से है, क्योंकि मेल का कलर ब्लू रहता है। तो नियर मतलब अप टू 2000 मीटर के एलिवेशन तक मिल जाएगा। अगर इसकी बेस्ट साइटिंग देखनी हो तो यहाँ पे हमारे नियर बाई चंडी रेंज है एक मजाठल वाइल्ड लाइफ सेंचुरी, देयर द प्रेजेंस ऑफ प्रोमिनेंट। तो ये गोट एंटीलोप है। देन वी हैव हिमालयन थार। अब हिमालयन थार एक हाई एल्टीट्यूड, मतलब अप टू ट्री लाइन, जहां तक ट्री लाइन जाती है उस रेंज में ज्यादा पाया जाता है। इवन ग्रेट हिमालयन नेशनल पार्क और ये धौलाधार वाइल्ड लाइफ सेंचुरी है, इस एरिया में इसकी काफी प्रोमिनेंट प्रेजेंस रहती है। हिमालयन थार, इसको अगर किसी को देखना हो, दिस एनिमल इज अवेलेबल इन कुफरी जू वेयर वी कैन सी इट। Then we have Himalayan sirop, which is very difficult to sight.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Hello. Sir, आपकी स्लाइड चेंज नहीं हो रहे सर। स्लाइड चेंज नहीं हो रहा। नो सर।
कहाँ पे है?
ये फर्स्ट पेज पे है सर अभी। फाउनल डाइवर्सिटी ऑफ हिमाचल प्रदेश उसी पे है।
अच्छा, उससे आगे गया ही नहीं। how it comes. नहीं चेंज हुआ अभी.
No, sir. Still not changed.
So,
Yes, sir. Yes, now change. Antelopes, horned animals.
okay. So I think in full screen it's not changing. So I was on this slide, then now is it changing?
So it is on third slide.
Yeah, it's fourth.
Yeah, sir. Now it's changing.
Yeah, इन स्लाइड्स को मैं एक्सप्लेन कर चुका हूँ पहले वैसे.
Yeah, so now
I was on this. Fifth slide is visible, blue bull.
yes, sir. It's visible now. Now the slides are changing.
I think in full screen mode it is not moving.
So then full screen में दीजिए आप ऐसे ही कंटिन्यू कीजिए.
ऐसे चलेगा?
जी सर.
ठीक है.
Yes, sir.
So blue bull मैंने बता दिया lower elevation में. Then next was this goral. So the horned one is male and the other one is female. इनमें मेल और फीमेल दोनों में हॉर्न्स रहते हैं. फिर नेक्स्ट था हिमालयन थार, जिसको मैंने बताया कि कुफरी जू में इसको देखा जा सकता है. बहुत कम ऐसी जू होंगी या शायद नहीं भी होंगी इंडिया में जिसमें हिमालयन थार आपको देखने को मिलेगा. तो कुफरी जू एक है जहाँ पे हिमालयन थार को रखा गया है. देन सीरो, हिमालयन सीरो हिमाचल में पाया जाता है. काला टॉप वाइल्ड लाइफ सेंचुरी में, ग्रेट हिमालयन नेशनल पार्क में, और भी इसकी लोकेशंस है. इसको वाइल्ड में इसकी साइटिंग्स और फोटोग्राफी करना काफ़ी ज़्यादा हिमाचल में मुश्किल है, मतलब काफ़ी कम दिखता है. तो लास्ट ईयर एक केस हुआ था जिसमें इट वाज स्ट्रेड अप टू स्पीति, रेस्क्यूड फ्रॉम देयर. देन दिस इज अ प्योरली ट्रांस हिमालयन स्पीसीज, ब्लू शीप, जो कि जहाँ ट्री जोन खत्म हो जाती है उस जोन में स्नो फेड एरियाज रहते हैं जो विंटर्स में, और वेजिटेशन फ्री रहते हैं, मतलब कोल्ड डेजर्ट की स्पीसीज है ब्लू शीप. दिस इज अ मेल एंड अगेन हिमालयन आइवेक्स. दिस इज ऑल्सो ट्रांस हिमालयन स्पीसीज. फोटोग्राफ ये स्पीति का फोटोग्राफ है. इधर ग्रेट हिमालयन नेशनल पार्क, देन लाहौल, स्पीति, इस एरिया में जहाँ पे ट्रांस हिमालयन जोन है उसमें हिमालयन आइवेक्स की प्रेजेंस है. ये 6 स्पीसीज थी जो हमारे पास गोट एंटीलोप, जो एंटीलोप्स में थी हिमाचल में. देन वी हैव डियर स्पीसीज, मतलब we have only 3 species of deers in हिमाचल प्रदेश. डियर्स की खासियत रहती है ये इनमें हॉर्न्स नहीं है, दे हैव एंटलर्स, और एंटलर्स आर ऑलवेज ब्रांच्ड एंड शेड एवरी ईयर. तो हर साल ये गिरते हैं और दोबारा से रीग्रो होते हैं. एंड दीज आर सॉलिड, नॉट हॉलो लाइक हॉर्न्स. सो डियर्स की स्पीसीज में हमारे पास सांबर डियर है, जो कि विच इज द लार्जेस्ट डियर इन इंडिया, एंड द स्मॉलेस्ट वन इज माउस डियर विच इज नॉट प्रेजेंट इन हिमाचल प्रदेश. तो सांबर डियर, दीज आर ग्रुप लिविंग एनिमल्स. तो मेल हैज ह्यूज एंटलर्स एंड फीमेल डजंट हैव एंटलर्स और हॉर्न्स. इन डियर स्पीसीज females are without antlers. Then the next one we have working deer. So working deer is also present in the same habitat where sambar deer is there. So barking deer is smaller here in Himachal Pradesh, locally known as kakkad. The name is barking deer because when it makes sounds, when it gives alarm call, then it sounds like dog barking. The next species, last species of spotted deer, we have this species also in Himachal Pradesh, but not everywhere. We can see this species in the adjoining areas of Uttarakhand, Paonta Sahib and Simbalwada National Park is the ideal place where spotted deer can be seen. Then the other important species, musk deer, we have in Himachal Pradesh, and this was also the state animals long back. And this particular animal is also an endangered species in IUCN data list and Schedule 1 in Wildlife Protection Act. So it has long teeth which are known as tusses and post mostly for the musk pot. Then other ungulate, we have this wild boar, which is mostly in low elevation areas and slowly moving up, which is an indicator of some change in the climate. So other category, we have carnivorous species. The top carnivore species in Himachal Pradesh is common leopard, and everyone is aware of this species. Also problematic, so many conflicts are also there in Himachal because of this animal, and the population is quite good. And the range, it has large range throughout the country of this animal is found. The next one and very important species of Himachal Pradesh is snow leopard, which is found in Trans Himalayas and is also state animal of Himachal Pradesh and endangered species and very charismatic animal. And from tourism point of view, also this animal is very important and also raising the economy of the people, those residing in trans-Himalayan areas, because people from far-flung area, even from foreign, are ready to pay any amount just to have a glimpse of this charismatic animal. Then other cat species which are commonly found in Himachal, this is leopard cat, the upper one, then jungle cat, jackal is there, then Indian fox. This is also Himalayan wolf, is also a trans-Himalayan animal. The other name is also Tibetan wolf. Then red fox. This is also high altitude animal and very beautiful. Then if we see the omnivores, we have two species of mega omnivores. If we see in megafauna, black bear and Himalayan brown bear. Brown bear is also an important species, cannot be found in any zoo. Maybe in Darjeeling Zoo, we can see this, and also in Kufri Zoo, we have this animal where we can see brown bear. Brown bear is found in high elevations, while this black bear is a Sivalik or middle Himalayas animal. Then we have other variety of species. Some of these I have put here. Like we have yellow-throated martin, common palm civet, Himalayan palm civet, grey mongoose. Indian pangolin, weasel, stoat. So many beautiful faunal species are found in Himachal Pradesh. This is marmot, pika, Indian hare, porcupine, woolly hare. Woolly hare is found in Trans-Himalayan state, Trans-Himalayan zone. Then we have 22 species of primates in India, out of which only 2 are found in Himachal Pradesh. And these are commonly known, this rhesus macaque. Again, in urban areas, this animal is quite problematic and difficult to handle. Then other species is Hanuman langur. These are only 2 primate species which are found in Himachal. Then one topic which I just want to touch, because butterflies, insects, everything has already been explained very well by the previous speaker. So this is the one species, snakes. About this species, there is very little awareness among the masses, and these days, these are the days, winter and this summer and now coming monsoon. So this species is going to be sighted everywhere, and also there are so many complaints from houses, from other places. So people are very much afraid of this species. So a little bit I would like to highlight this species here, not in detail, but there are around 270 species of snakes in India, and out of 3,900 species in the world. So basically these snakes have been evolved from lizards, but the fact is that all snakes in common people, जनरली कॉमन पीपल में क्या है कि ये सोचते हैं कि 100% स्नेक्स जो भी है वो विनोमस है, तो कोई भी काटेगा कुछ भी कैजुअलिटी हो जाएगी, जो कि एक मिसनोमर है। जो एलाइट क्लास है, पढ़े लिखे हैं, वो तो उनमें अवेयरनेस है भी अब, लेकिन डर फिर भी रहता है। जबकि रियलिटी ये है कि जो विनोमस स्पीसीज सिर्फ 40% है, उनमें से भी मैक्सिमम स्पीसीज हैं जो सी स्नेक्स की हैं। जो लैंड स्नेक्स हैं, दैट इज ओनली अराउंड 10% विच आर विनोमस। सो जो विनोमस है, अगर जनरल पब्लिक को हम इतना भी बता दें कि विनोमस स्नेक्स 3-4 जो स्पीसीज हैं जो मेजर प्रॉब्लमेटिक है हिमाचल के सिनेरियो में मैं बोल रहा हूँ, बल्कि मोस्ट ऑफ इंडिया में भी वही सिनेरियो रहता है। तो कैटेगरी तो हमारी ये है कि कुछ स्नेक्स विनोमस हैं, कुछ माइल्डली विनोमस हैं, एंड अदर्स आर नॉन विनोमस। तो विनोमस मीन्स जिनके काटने से डेथ भी हो सकती है, कोई और कैजुअलिटी हो सकती है, मतलब लिम्स की एम्पुटेशन भी करनी पड़ सकती है इफ नॉट ट्रीटेड इन टाइम। एंड माइल्डली विनोमस, तो विनोमस स्नेक्स आर फ्रंट फैंग्स, जिनके आगे फैंग्स होते हैं जिसके थ्रू ये विनम इंजेक्ट करते हैं। देन आर माइल्डली विनोमस। दिस आर रियर फैंग्ड, इनके फैंग्स बहुत छोटे होते हैं और जबड़े के बिल्कुल पीछे रहते हैं, आगे नहीं रहते। ये वो है which these even mildly venomous snakes are not deadly to human beings. तो इनका रोल जो विनम का रहता है वो अपने प्रे को मारने तक ही सीमित रहता है, लेकिन ह्यूमंस के लिए ये डेडली नहीं है, दे आर इजीली क्योरेबल। देन अदर्स आर नॉन विनमस कैटेगरी, जिनमें बिल्कुल भी विनम नहीं है, जो मोस्ट ऑफ द स्नेक्स आर नॉन विनमस। सो इनके काटने से बाकी तो कुछ नहीं होगा, लेकिन प्रिकॉशन लेना जरूरी है, बिकॉज ये कुछ भी खाते हैं। एवरी स्नेक्स बिसाइड्स विनम, इवन विनमस भी है, कैरी बैक्टीरिया विच कैन बी हार्मफुल एट द इंजर्ड पार्ट। सो प्रिकॉशन लेना तो हर जगह जरूरी है। तो कुछ विनमस जो हमारे पास हिमाचल के सिनेरियो में नोट करने लायक है, स्पेक्टिकल कोबरा, जिसके वाइटिंग केसेस रहते हैं, स्पेक्टिकल कोबरा इजीली आइडेंटिफिएबल है, कोबरा फन फैलाता है, कोई भी इसको दूर से आइडेंटिफाई कर सकता है कि दिस इज कोबरा व्हेन जब भी इसको थोड़ी सी भी डिस्टर्बेंस होगी इट विल रेज इट्स हुड। देन द अदर डेंजरस स्पीसीज इज कॉमन क्रेट, 2 से 2.5 फीट इतनी सी इसकी लेंथ रहती है, वेरी थिन, जेट ब्लैक एंड विद वाइट बैंड्स। तो ये ऐसी स्पीसीज है जिसके काटने से का पता नहीं चलता बिकॉज कोई पेन नहीं होती, दिस इज इट्स वाइट इज क्वाइट पेनलेस एंड it is even little quantity of venom is dangerous. So this is highly venomous snakes in Himachal Pradesh, common crate. तो रात को ज्यादातर वाइटिंग केसेस होते हैं, उनमें कई बार निशान भी नजर नहीं आते, इतने पतले इसके टीथ रहते हैं, जिस वजह से मतलब जो विक्टिम है उसको पता नहीं लग पाता, ना कोई पेन होती है, और ज्यादातर डेथ्स का रीजन वो बनता है क्योंकि सुबह तक जब तक पता चलता है तब तक डेथ हो चुकी होती है। एंड द मोस्ट कॉमन जिसके वाइट केसेस रहते हैं दैट इज रसल वाइपर। तो रसल वाइपर ये ऐसी स्पीसीज जो देखने में बहुत सुस्त है, वेरी स्लगिश, पड़ा रहता है, कलर भी ऐसा है कि ये इनमें पेपर्स में मतलब जब जो गार्बेज पड़ा होता है या पत्ते पड़े होते हैं उनमें इजीली नजर नहीं आता, मूवमेंट कोई नहीं होती, और जब गलती से इस पे पॉप पड़ जाता है देन वाइटिंग केसेस आर मोर। देन जो हायर एल्टीट्यूड में हिमालयन पिट वाइपर, जो अदर 3 स्पीसीज थी ये ज्यादातर लोअर एल्टीट्यूड या मिडिल हिमालय तक ज्यादा होती हैं, जो हायर एल्टीट्यूड में होता है वो हिमालयन पिट वाइपर है विच इज पॉइजनस। बट इसके वाइटिंग केस बहुत रेयर होते हैं क्योंकि ये ज्यादातर हैबिटेशंस में नहीं आता और फॉरेस्टेड एरिया में ही ज्यादा रहता है। दीज आर द 4 मेजर स्पीसीज जो कि हिमाचल में ये डेडली और क्वाइट विनमस हैं। जो अदर स्पीसीज हैं इनके अलावा जैसे बहुत सारी और स्पीसीज हैं, यहाँ पे मैं एक को एक्सप्लेन नहीं कर रहा हूँ, जस्ट ऐसे बताया। तो ये नॉन विनमस हैं जिनके काटने से जस्ट प्रिकॉशन होना चाहिए। मेरा बताने का यहाँ पे स्पीसीज को एक्सप्लेन करने का ये मकसद था कि जो एक डर होता है कि स्नेक वाइट कर गया तो इमीडिएटली पैनिक के सीधा विक्टिम को हॉस्पिटल ले जाया जाए, वहां डॉक्टर सिम्टम्स देख के उसकी ट्रीटमेंट देगा। क्योंकि जो नॉन विनमस स्नेक ने अगर काटा होगा देन नथिंग इज गोइंग टू हैपन, ना कोई सिम्टम होंगे ना कुछ होगा, लेकिन एक चीज हो सकती है कि डर के मारे हार्ट अटैक जरूर हो सकता है, तो उससे बचना जरूरी है। तो आजकल सीजन जो अभी आएगा काफी एनकाउंटर स्नेक से होंगे, तो किसी भी इससे डरने की या इतना मिस हैंडल करने की भी जरूरत नहीं है कि हम ऐसे मिस हैंडल करने लग जाए। जस्ट प्रिकॉशंस कि इमीडिएटली अगर आइडेंटिफिकेशन नहीं है देन रश द पेशेंट टू हॉस्पिटल विदाउट मूविंग एनी लिम्ब, और उसको चला के भी नहीं, बिल्कुल स्टेबलाइज करके। सो नेक्स्ट जो बायोडाइवर्सिटी पे मैं कहूँगा एविफोना बर्ड्स विच इज ऑल्सो ए ह्यूज टॉपिक, सो मेनी बर्ड, मतलब मोर देन 1260 स्पीसीज ऑफ बर्ड्स आर फाउंड इन इंडिया, जिसमें से 60 तो स्पेसिफिक एंडेमिक है इंडिया की जो इंडिया में ही मिलती है, और हिमाचल के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में 650 से ज़्यादा स्पीसीज रिकॉर्डेड हैं। तो यहाँ एक हमारे पास रेजिडेंट स्पीसीज है जो यहीं रहती हैं, यहीं ब्रीड करती हैं, कुछ माइग्रेटरी है, विंटर माइग्रेशन, समर माइग्रेशन काफ़ी ह्यूज अमाउंट में होती है। तो बर्ड्स के कई बेनिफिशियल्स रोल्स हैं और कुछ हार्मफुल रोल्स भी हैं, क्रॉप डैमेज एटसेट्रा भी ये करते हैं, और आपका बर्ड फ्लू भी माइग्रेटरी स्पीसीज से कई बार ट्रांसमिट हो जाता है। तो द रेस्ट ऑफ द मतलब ये मेगाफोना पे मेरा फोकस था, तो थोड़ा सा मैंने रेप्टाइल्स को टच किया, अदरवाइज जो डाटा है पहले ही आपको पिछले प्रेजेंटेशन में प्रेजेंट किया जा चुका है, जैसे इंसेक्ट्स पे अच्छी तरह से, बाकी फिगर्स भी काफ़ी डिटेल में दिए गए हैं। तो मैं जस्ट एक ओवरव्यू देना चाहता था जो हिमाचल की मेजर वाइल्ड लाइफ है उस पे। तो विद दिस आई वुड लाइक टू थैंक यू वेरी मच। कोई भी क्वेश्चंस इससे रिलेटेड अब हैं, देन प्लीज गो अहेड।
Thank you so much, sir, for very interesting presentation. Any question from the audience? I think there is no question from the audience. So we come to the end of this webinar. So at the end of today's webinar, I extend my hearty vote of thanks to Shri Satpal Himanji, Joint Member Secretary, HP Council for Science, Technology and Environment, to take out time for gracing today's webinar. I extend my thanks to Dr. S.P. Bhardwaji, Dr. Vaneet Jishtu, Shri Rajesh Kumar Sharma ji for delivering very informative and interesting presentations. Finally, I would like to thank all the participants of today's webinar. I hope that every one of us has learned a lot from today's webinar. With these words, I once again thank you all for your kind attention. Thank you so much.